Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News on Shri FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kasmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Mixed reactions greet Court of Appeals acquittal and discharge of former Maslo CEO Sedina Adu, who had been convicted over the alleged embezzlement of more than $6 million in public funds.
In fact, I would say in terms of strategy, we had come essentially on very main grounds on the fact that the charge sheet itself was defective.
Bringing the latest on this, also Lands and Natural Resources Minister Emmanuel Amakofiboa insists the government has no intention of selling Valco as he meets agitated workers of the company. And much later on the program, fate of over 2,000 BEC candidates hangs in the balance as WAEC withholds subject result over suspected exam malpractice. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. The Court of Appeal has overturned the 10-year jail sentence handed to former Chief Executive Officer of Maslo, Sedina Adu. Madam Sedina was acquitted after the court ruled that the former Maslo CEO should not have been sentenced as the prosecution could not prove the charges leveled against her. In April 2024, an Accra High Court handed Adu a 10-year prison sentence with hard labor after finding her guilty of causing financial loss to the state. She was convicted of 78 counts of offences, including stealing, causing financial loss to the state, money laundering, and improper payment of public funds. Ationu was convicted in absentia by an Accra High Court after she failed to appear before the court during proceedings related to alleged financial irregularities at Matlock during her tenure as Chief Executive Officer. Her lawyers filed a notice of appeal in May 2024. On Tuesday, June 9, 2026, Sedina Adu returned to Ghana from the United States to begin serving a prison sentence following a successful extradition process initiated by the government of Ghana. Here's lawyer for Sedina Adu, Enoch Digbe, Esquire of Freshfields Law Consult. He spoke to journalists earlier today after the ruling.
In fact, I would say in terms of strategy, we had come essentially on very main grounds on the fact that the charge sheet itself was defective, and then secondly that in fact there was no proper prima facie determination against our client, and then of course we also attacked the judgment itself. So these were the grounds, but as you may have already heard, in fact the court only read their conclusion, and then they only brought on the first leg of our submission, which was the defective charge sheet.
As we speak, what's the state of your client? How is she doing now?
Well, I'm yet to speak to her, but I mean, as we all know, she's in Sawam, and I'm sure she may have already heard the news, so I'm sure she'll be happy.
Are there any other options that you seek to take, perhaps some civil action against the state?
Well, I don't have such instructions now, but I'm going to sit with my client, and then on the basis of the judgment, we'll see what steps we can take, if any.
And he had Enoch Digbe Esquire. He's the lawyer for Sedina Adu. Well, reactions have come in thick and fast after this ruling. Former Deputy Attorney General Alfred Chiayeboa expressed shock over the turn of events.
Here's the case that in the trial, the CEO, Madam Sedina, advanced a loan facility to a microfinance company in Ashanti in the sum of 500,000 Ghana cedis by way of checks. The company said they were not interested in the amount again because of the interest element. So they decided to return the check to Madam Sedina Adu. She requested that no, cash the money for me. They cashed the money, came to Accra at a filling station, gave her the 500,000 Ghana cedis in Ghana must go back. She took the money and issued a receipt on her own. But that money never went into the books of Maslo. All these things were made available to the court. And if a court of appeal can say that with this strong and very potent evidence, the state could not prove any of the charges, that's what I'm saying. I'm very much sad.
And you have the former Deputy Attorney General Alfred Yeboah, well, also reacting to this. Private legal practitioner Valco Powers gave his view about the ruling from the Court of Appeal.
So it is not just, we shouldn't just take it because the Court of Appeal says the charges were defective and the prosecution was not able to make out a case. I think there is more to that than we may see. And I just want to point out, if this is the attitude we will bring on board to address issues of corruption, then I'm telling you, we only will address this issue of corruption. But it will always be looking at us directly in the face, because we cannot appear to prosecute opposition members and discharge or release our own people. If we want to do a good job and we want Ghanaians to know that we are fighting corruption, the sword of justice must cut both ways.
And Heather, lawyer Valco Powers, private legal practitioner. Let's get a quick reaction now from Godwin Eduji Tamaklo. He's the Director of Legal Affairs for the National Democratic Congress. He joins us live on the phone. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Beatrice, good afternoon, and good afternoon to your cherished listeners and viewers online.
I'm sure by now you've seen the reactions to this very ruling by the Court of Appeal. But first, I want to get your immediate reaction to the judgment as a lawyer yourself.
Okay, so first of all, I'm here to get a copy of the reasoning of the Court of Appeal. I'm here to get a copy. I'm sure we'll get a benefit of reading the entire reasoning. But as a firm believer of the rule of law, I strongly believe that the system allows for a person who is dissatisfied with a judgment of a court below has every opportunity, as it were, to appeal the decision. Now, the benefit we have is that 3 justices of the Court of Appeal would have to evaluate, and like we say, appeal is by way of rehearing. So there is everything within the powers of the appellate court to look at it again. And if they reach a different conclusion, I have no basis to fault them.
I want you to hold on. Godfrey Yeboah, former Attorney General who actually oversaw this prosecution, is currently on TV. I want us to listen to him briefly and then we'll come back to conclude our conversation.
It happened since 1982, and I do not think it should happen. And indeed, we protest the directive given by the Chief Justice for it to happen now. Why? What's the exceptional circumstance here? Why so much urgent need to have accused persons tried in the vacation? If we've not been able to try all along, it's not my fault. It is their own doing that they discontinue the prosecution and all that. If all the charges have been defective and they decide to withdraw at one point and come back and they have been ordered to amend and all that, it's their own doing. It cannot be as a result of my default. And so there's no justification for the order for the accused persons to be tried in the vacation. We are going to protest the directive and we'll do so accordingly.
I mean, back to the said now, will you advise the Attorney General to appeal the decision of the Court of Appeal?
Oh, definitely. I mean, when I was in office and there was acquittal by the Court of Appeal, certain accused persons, I appealed to the Supreme Court. But the same Attorney General came and discontinued the appeal. So I would therefore not be surprised that it has not even filed any appeal at all in this matter. We saw it in Woyombe. In Woyombe, when they purported to put Woyombe on trial on some defective charges and the court acquitted. They appealed to the Court of Appeal, Court of Appeal affirmed. They never appealed to the Supreme Court. They never even put the right persons on trial in Woyombe. And to date, we know what has happened.
Thank you so much.
And you heard the former Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah-Dame. We still have on the line with us lawyer Eduji Tamaklo. And lawyer, we'll go into the substance of what he just said. But I just wanted to get a firm commitment from you that from where you sit, you're not shocked or disappointed by the ruling of the Court of Appeal.
In fact, like I pointed out to you earlier, the accused person the convict, now freed by the Court of Appeal, has every right to, as it were, appeal the decision. Thankfully, an appellate court has reviewed the entire records. My understanding is that this is an appeal that was strongly opposed by the Attorney General, the prosecution. The justices of the Court of Appeal have reviewed the two submissions and I've come to the conclusion. In fact, the little that I know about that case, the records that I've looked at, clearly shows that this conviction ought not to have happened even in the first place. First of all, Beatrice, the understanding, I guess, was that there was a case of causing financial loss, a case of stealing, and in the case of the causing financial loss, it brought on the purchase of some buses. If you read the submission and the record, when the prosecution witness, Mr. I think they call him Sticker, you know him?
Mm-hmm. Yes, the Member of Parliament for Nshaiso.
Yes, the former boss of, Maslo. Under cross-examination, this issue came up strongly as to because he became a prosecution witness. And Beatrice, it will interest you to note that all throughout, the prosecution witness, that is Teka, admitted under cross-examination that the payments for the buses were done by him or under his tenure. And the person who specifically made the authorization for that payment was the former finance minister. So I was wondering if the accused now, the suspect, never made any payment. I'm surprised.
So
why on earth should be convicted for causing financial loss, a loss that for all intent and purpose was renegotiated and paid under the MPP administration? I'm trying to pick the exact records of proceedings, so maybe I just read that portion to your, listeners, right?
Mm.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead briefly for us.
Yes, briefly. So I think under cross-examination, something transpired. I'm just trying to see if I get the submission.
Whilst you look for it, in other words, again, if I'm getting your submission, you agree with the court and the ruling that the prosecution failed to prove its case?
Because if you say somebody has caused financial loss to the state, I think there must be evidence that, quote, whoever it is, the loss was occasioned by the reckless decision of that person, correct? I think there should be evidence that the person authorized payments to be made for whatever is worth.
So you agree with what the court said?
But the prosecution, yes. Like I told you, I have not seen a copy of the judgment. But be that as may, as far as the records that I'm privy to is concerned, I don't think there was any basis at all.
So what then do you believe this says about the way the case was investigated and prosecuted eventually? What then do you believe says, this very ruling says about the way the case was investigated and eventually prosecuted?
Yeah, so I strongly believe that if the prosecutors at that time were a bit minded to do a thorough investigation at that time, wouldn't have gotten to the conclusion. And let me read this quickly. Cross-examination of sticker. And I just want to read.
Briefly, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm just reading. You also know that from your record that the contract for the acquisition of the vehicles had been signed by your predecessor, but not a single cedi had been paid by Maslo. Is that correct? Answer, yes, my lady. Continued. Your CEO had testified in this court that they renegotiated the entire contract price. Is that the case? Answer, unfortunately, I cannot speak on my CEO's testimony. I'm asking you personally. Maslo says that the contract price was renegotiated. Is that the case? Answer, from what the person gave to me, yes.
Lawyer, for the sake of time, there are critics who are very unhappy about this. They think that this is another...
Has there been any decision in our courts that everybody has been happy with? Hold on. A court just delivered its judgment, convicting somebody based on the evidence and law. And that person has been described as a political prisoner. Do you agree with them?
That's what they said, but those...
No, I'm asking you, do you agree with them?
Well, that's your opinion. I don't stand in a place of agreeing or disagreeing with anybody.
When you ask me with respect that there are people who are unhappy, I'm struggling how my response should be, Beatrice.
The argument is that she's NDC, and so just like we see NPP and NDC do, you're just letting her go because she's one of your own.
Because she was NDC?
So you disagree with the critics, obviously?
No, I'm saying, was she convicted because she was NDC?
She was convicted as former CEO of Maslo.
And was she entitled to appeal the decision?
Legally, yes.
Okay.
But you haven't answered the question, though. You disagree with the critics?
Obviously, for my submission, that's a strong disagreement. In fact, I don't see the basis for that claim at all.
All right.
If not, we should disband the Court of Appeal under the Supreme Court.
Just very briefly before you go,
briefly, I listened to Godfred Yebu Adami.
Indeed. And he said the MPP would protest this.
Oh, so maybe she prosecuted Sedinam to satisfy the NPP. Is that the case?
That's what you're saying?
Maybe she prosecuted Sedinam to satisfy the NPP. Listen, I am surprised that Godfred Dami, is even talking about some of the prosecutions that she supervised. There were some of the most horrendous prosecutions, in fact, persecutions ever. Look, I know what he tried doing in the Atu forcing trial. I'm fully aware. And I'm so disappointed that he still has the courage to talk in this country. I'm so disappointed that today Godfred has the courage to even talk about prosecution. This is a person that was caught on tape, encouraging an accused person to implicate a fellow accused person. I mean, what more dishonorable can this be?
Lawyer Tamaklo, just briefly, how significant is today's reversal by the Court of Appeal? Just very briefly, before you go.
We have all subscribed to the rule of law, and that is what it is.
And that is what it is. Thank you very much, Eduji Godwin Eduji Tamaklo. He is Director of Legal Affairs for the governing National Democratic Congress. And just to bring you some more, Mrs. Tamaklo Atu, who served as Maslo CEO from November 2013 to January 2017, was arraigned before the High Court Financial Division on January 30, 2019 on 78 counts spanning conspiracy to stealing, causing financial loss to the state, causing loss to public property, improper payment of public funds, unauthorized commitment resulting in financial obligation to the government, money laundering, and breach of Public Procurement Act. Some more here, and the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amako-Fibua, has met with the management and workers of Valco to address concerns over reports that the smelter could be put up for sale. Speaking to staff, the Minister assured that Valco is not for sale. Instead, he said the government is engaging private investors to raise about $700 million to recapitalize the company and restore it to full operations. Reporter Joseph Armstrong Gold Alugui is there. He will be joining us as soon as we have him. But let's listen to the Lands Minister, Emmanuel Amakofiboa, speak on this.
Cabinet says, Minister, now go and sit down and do the negotiation. And I have said, CEO, make sure the workers are part of this discussion. Finish. So your interest is on the table. There's nothing anybody wants to do that is secret. So my friends, I am here this morning to share with you this intention of government. It is a genuine one. It is never intended to lay anybody off. It is never, but it is intended to create certainty and security of your jobs. And to even add more. You know how many pressures you get when you go home every day? How many people are asking you to try to get them here? But you know you can't bring them here at this level of capacity you are working and the challenges you are facing. So I'm pleading with you. We need your support in this transition. But we'll level with you at every step of the way. Working together, we can turn Valco around. Thank you.
And you have the Minister for the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry. Some more here, and the committee led by Professor Agyemang Kosa investigated. Okay, so let's start from here. The Nursing and Midwifery Council says its hands are tied on disciplining nurses over the death of Charles Emisa, a hit-and-run victim, until it gets hold of an official report on the matter. A committee led by Professor Agyemang Kosa investigated the case and recommended sanctions against two nurses, Akosia Texin and Joy Daisy Nelson. It said both should be referred to their institutions and to the Nursing and Midwifery Council for disciplinary action. But the council says it has only received a letter from the Ministry of Health instructing it to act, not the committee's actual report. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health on Thursday ordered the immediate temporary closure of the Tachiman Krobo Nursing Training College following violent student protests. The students demonstrated on Monday over poor feeding and sanitary conditions and other welfare concerns. Philomena Awole, the council's registrar, explained the situation to Parliament Health Committee during a visit.
Officially, it has not come to the council, but we have also seen it on social media. And we are in talks with the Ministry of Health, which has asked that we give them someone so that we move together as a team to go and assess the situation and review what is happening officially.
And you had the council's registrars in for the Midwifery Council, Philomena Awole. Belinda Tete is our Bono East Regional correspondent. She joins us live on the phone. Belinda, I know you've been to the school. Has it indeed been closed? What are the students saying, if that's the case?
Yes. So following the agitation of students, of course, after the release of the statement that the school has been temporarily closed down, this morning when I got here, almost all the students have vacated the campus, remaining our less than 20 of the students who are also packing their belongings and should be out by the end of the day. And then all the schools, all the facilities are closed down. Classrooms are locked. The administration has been locked. The hostels are locked. And the school is literally empty.
And we also know that a 5-member committee has been established by the Bono East Regional Security Council, RECSEC. What more do you know about the committee's work?
Right. So the minister is yet to inform us on the mandate of the committee, but following the agitations, yesterday, the director in charge of health trainees was here. Tony Goodman was here in the school, and he was in the company of the RECSEC to come and assess the situation and see how best to solve the situation. They had an indoor discussions with the administration as well as the SRC, the school's SRC, and I can't best tell what the discussion was about, But after the meeting, they tried meeting with the students' body to come to a level ground where the students can both agree that they work together and also have the RECSEC solve the matter amicably. But the students were insisting on having the principal out. They were given two options, that either they let the principal go or they themselves were going to leave the school and go home. And so based off of that, they couldn't come to an agreement. And so the minister decided to set, or the RECSEC decided to set a 5-member committee to sit on the grievances of the students and also deliberate on the best way forward. He also gave directives that some of the grievances that could be solved by the management, he ordered that immediately management of the school should fix those grievances. That is having to do with sanitation issues, feeding issues, and other related issues. But with the issue of them wanting the principal out, the committee is yet to sit on the matter to come out with recommendations. And then based off of the recommendations from the committee, they will see the best ways to solve the issue.
Very briefly, you've confirmed that the school has been closed, but what's the general reaction and atmosphere around the place?
Actually, some of the students wanted the school. Some of the students wanted to leave, because when we were here yesterday, their demands were that either the principal leaves or they would leave. And so some of them, I think they wanted the close down of the school. But then with the hope that as soon as possible, their demand should be met so that they can come to school and learn. Because I'm told some of the students are in their final year, and next week some have to sit to write their KNUSC, that's their licential exams. And so those students are going to be greatly affected. And from that, I can tell that some of, especially with the final year students, they'll be hoping that they shouldn't have been asked to go home. But based off of the situation, they couldn't do anything else, and so they all have to pack and leave. But with the hope that at least maybe by next week or in subsequent days, as soon as possible, the Ministry of Various Stakeholders can come to a level ground so they can ask the students to come back.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much, Belinda Tete. She's our Bono East correspondent. Now, the fate of more than 2,000 candidates who sat this year's Basic Education Certificate Examination, BEC, hangs in the balance after the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, withheld their results over suspected examination malpractice. WAEC says the affected student or candidate drawn from more than 200 schools will have to wait until investigations are concluded before a decision is taken on whether their result will be released or cancelled. In a statement, WAEC also announced sanctions against candidates found to have engaged in examination malpractice. The council said that its final award and examiners appointment committee approved the cancellation of the subject result of 496 candidates and the cancellation of the entire result of 105 candidates. It also withheld the subject result of 119 candidates and the entire result of 48 others pending further investigations. Head of Public Affairs at WAEC, John Kapi, spoke to us earlier on New Day on TV3.
For the ones that have been cancelled, straight away, they are the ones that were detected in the course of the examination, because we had monitors going around virtually every part of the country, and so that was when these incidents were discovered, and so the actions have been taken. Those ones wouldn't need to do any further scrutiny or further investigation. So these ones that you've noticed that action has been taken are based on the fact that were found in the course of the examination. Well, what we've realized is that there's been, it is not so much of an increase per se. There are some of the figures that have gone up, others have come down. I don't have last year's figures in front of me, but I think that they are, like you said, within range, not necessarily because we are happy that people are still engaging in more practice, but we think that with the level of monitoring that we have introduced, it has reduced drastically.
And you heard there John Kapi, he speaks for WAEC. And that's it for the Midday News here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Log on to shrinews.com for more news. Have a good afternoon.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, consumers to pay more for fuel as National Petroleum Authority (NPA) announces another hike in the price floor for petroleum products in the country. And Ghana urges ECOWAS to prioritize women's economic empowerment for growth. I am Michael Lobodu. Details of these and many other stories lined up for you. Do stay tuned. Well, thank you so much for your time. Straight into our top story. And businesses and consumers are bracing for higher fuel costs after the National Petroleum Authority raised the minimum price threshold for petrol, diesel and LPG for the first pricing window of August. The sharpest rise is in diesel, a key input for transport, mining, construction and manufacturing, raising concerns over higher operating costs and renewed inflationary pressures. This 3 Business News Desk report has the details.
At the Supreme Court, I'm sure there will be a bit more details from that because we're expecting the Attorney General.
Diesel. With the price floor rising 18.3% to 16.97 cedis per litre from 14.35 Ghana cedis. Liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) has under the new pricing window, the minimum price for petrol has been increased by 9.4% to 14 cedis 53 pesos per litre from 13 cedis 28 pesos. Diesel has recorded the steepest adjustment, with the price floor rising 18.3% to 16.97 cedis per litre from 14.35 Ghana cedis. Liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) has also gone up by 8.5% to 11.06 Ghana cedis per kilogram. The National Petroleum Authority says the new price floors are the minimum retail prices that oil marketing companies must observe during the pricing window. However, the threshold does not include international trading premiums, bulk distribution costs, and dealer margins, meaning some consumers could pay even more at the pumps. The latest increases reflect mounting pressure from higher global crude oil prices driven by renewed geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, as well as the cedi's depreciation against the US dollar. Analysts say the higher fuel costs are likely to feed into transport fares, logistics, manufacturing, and food prices, adding fresh cost pressures for businesses and households in the weeks ahead. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Now, district assemblies across Ghana and mining host communities are being denied millions of cedis in mining royalties they are legally entitled to, according to the Ghana Extractives Industry Transparency Initiative, GATI. The transparency body says its latest report found that none of the assemblies received their full share of mining royalties and ground rent, prompting renewed calls for Parliament to enforce compliance with the law. The Minerals Development Fund Act 2016 sets out how mineral royalties are to be distributed among beneficiaries. Under the law, metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies are entitled to 55% of the revenue allocated to local beneficiaries. The 2023 GATI mining report found that none of the assemblies received their full allocation, with some receiving as little as 34% of the amount due. The report warns that the shortfall is depriving mining communities of resources needed for local development and is urging Parliament to strengthen oversight of the disbursement process. Speaking at a stakeholder engagement, Gaiti co-chair Dr. Steve Manteo described the findings as worrying, saying delays and shortfalls in disbursements continue to undermine infrastructure and development projects in affected communities. Dr. Mantea also called on Parliament to ensure the law is fully implemented and that district assemblies receive their allocations promptly.
If this law is not being complied with, then it becomes the responsibility of Parliament to ensure compliance with the law it passed. So it ought to summon the various players, the duty bearers, saddled with the responsibility for this disbursement, to answer urgent questions as to why, for such a long period, these monies are not being disbursed. What is the problem? I think Ghanaians need to know.
You hear the co-chair of Gaiti, Dr. Steve Manteo, ending that report. Now, moving on, Ghana is positioning gender equality as an economic growth strategy using reforms aimed at expanding women's participation in business, employment, and financial inclusion. At a high-level ECOWAS meeting, the country showcased a series of policy reforms while urging member states to accelerate action to unlock the region's economic potential. Addressing the ECOWAS high-level meeting on gender equality, gender, children and social protection minister Dr. Agnes Namumulati said Ghana has introduced sweeping legal and institutional reforms to remove barriers limiting women's participation in the economy. Among the key measures are the Affirmative Action Act, stronger protections against domestic violence and child marriage, and expanded social protection programs targeting vulnerable women and girls. Opening the meeting on behalf of the minister, the Deputy Director, Gender Department, Sabiak Bekata, noted that increasing women's participation in the labor force, entrepreneurship, and decision-making would strengthen productivity, improve household incomes, and boost long-term economic resilience.
Ghana has also launched the revised gender policy in March 2026 to provide a new 10-year framework for advancing gender equality. This policy serves as our overarching blueprint for institutionalizing gender equality across all sectors of national life, including education, health, agriculture, governance, digital transformation, infrastructure, and economic planning.
The resident representative of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, designates the Ghana, His Excellency Mohamed Lawan Ghana, acknowledged that challenges remain and stressed the need to strengthen various government institutions and agencies.
It is therefore imperative that our regional and national gender mechanisms are equipped with the institutional strength, technical expertise, and financial sustainability necessary to effectively implement gender response policies and programs. Strong institutions are the cornerstone of effective governance and are indispensable for translating commitments into measurable outcomes.
So you hear there the resident representative of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, designated Ghana, His Excellency Mohamed Lawan Ghana, ending that report. Now, away from that, the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, CBOD, says its members are open to acquiring a stake in the Ghana Cylinder Manufacturing Company Limited as government seeks funding to revamp the entity. The move follows an offer made by the Minister of Energy and Green Transition, Dr. John Jinapor, during his address at this year's Ghana International Petroleum Conference. Speaking to 3 Business, CBOD Chief Executive Officer Dr. Patrick Ofori expressed optimism that a formal announcement on the deal could be made soon.
We're more than happy, and then most of our members in there had already expressed interest. So there are discussions going on that they would want to send in external stake independent valuers to know what the assets are, what equity stake is the government willing to give. So I think once the signal has been sent, you'll be surprised that maybe next year or next GateCon, we'll be announcing significant progress in all those aspects.
To hear the voice of Dr. Patrick Ofori, Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Seaboard, bringing an end to today's edition of Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for tuning in. As always, please stay safe. Up next is Urban Blend with Black Rasta. Do stay tuned.